Hello everyone, welcome to your lecture on Mediatised community. This lecture is a part of your paper on community media and society. In this module, you will be familiar with the term Mediatised community. Before we begin, we need to qualify what way the term mediatized is different from mediated and what are the causes of this shift, and how scholarly literature differentiates between the two concepts, and finally, how they affect our community, society, and culture. Conventional understanding of media posed itself to be less integrated and remained alien to culture and society. As a result, most of the scholarly literature attempted to study the effect of media technologies on society and culture with an assumption that mass media are external to society and culture, hence the need to understand the effect. These studies analyzed how mediated messages affected individuals and institutions. Accordingly, research focused on to be its consumer behavior, content of newspaper, voting behavior, impact of soap operas, advertising, and so on. We live in a time where media is a part and parcel of our everyday life. Media occupies so much attention in our everyday life that it is an integral part of our life world, that is, completely mediatized. Today, we cannot even breathe for a moment without media, be it news through newspaper, television, internet, and mobile phone. These media not only provide information, they also allow us to act upon and engage actively in sending information and sharing with others in the community. Mediatization. The idea of mediatization is relatively a new concept and may be applicable to all societies. It is a very recent phenomenon and used in the context of industrialized societies. However, its ramifications are also visible in a non-industrialized societies as well. The recent developments in politics during elections in India, agitation and campaign regarding India against corruption, Nirbhaya case or Jessica Lal murder case and so many others are in point. These movements cannot be undermined, and the role of mediatization in making community engaged in the process of active participation and deliberation therein. Scholars of media and communication studies attempt to stretch out the idea of mediatization from an extension of mediation. Mediatization claims that the media shapes the society in which communication takes place. Mediatization is a process of communication that transforms society. Hence, it designates a significant connection between media and society. Nevertheless, individuals, institutions, and communities are also shaped by and dependent on media in the process of mediatization. It has to be differentiated from mediation. Term mediatization ensures a change in mode of interaction. There may be both direct and indirect mode of mediatization process. In case of direct mode, we observe how community members engage with the medium, be it post, telephone, mobile, computer, or internet. They can very well change the content and form during the process of their interaction. Here, the members directly engage with the medium. On the contrary, in the indirect mode, the members are influenced by media content and form. These content and form inform them to take a decision, but not the power to change the very content and form of the medium. Our interaction through radio, telephone, and newspaper may be assumed to be mediated interaction. However, that does not mean such mediated interaction forecloses further interactions. Furthermore, along with digitization, the media is now interactive and makes interactions possible. For instance, the recent entry of online newspaper, digital radio, and mobile phone makes it possible. Besides, community members immensely participate in Facebook, blogs, SMSs, and forms of chatting through email. The concept of mediatization was first applied in the domain of political communication, and it tried to understand the effect of media in politics. The Swedish media scholar Kent Asp was the first one to articulate on the mediatization of political life. Kent states that a political system is influenced by and accustomed to the demands of the media in their coverage of politics. In this mediated politics, media becomes a necessary source of information between the politician, the governor, and the governed. In this process of mediatization, political facts and figures stimulate and shape people's notions on political truth. Broadening the idea of mediatization beyond the domain of political communication, the Danish media scholar Stig Havard cited that mediatization is a social process whereby the society is inundated by the media to the extent that media cannot be thought to be separate from any other institution within the society. Other scholars too extended the idea to understand conflict. Besides extending the idea of politics and culture, scholars also attempted to link the idea of mediatization with the questions of modernity. Thomson highlights that the rise of printing press in 15th century contributed to the process of circulation of information and institutionalized in the form of magazines, books, and newspapers. These forms made possible to imagine a sense of community in a spatial manner. Now, the information could be stored and shared among a large section of people. Thomson assumes that this might have resulted in the transformations in society from agrarian and feudal to modern society that resulted in the growth of science, state, and public sphere. Modern mass media was instrumental in this transformation. It brought a rupture from the earlier physical face-to-face communication to a mediated form of communication in society. The media institutions and organizations evolved over a period of time and took a corporate shape at both national and global level in producing and distribution of media as symbolic products across societies and cultures. Thomson sees this development as the growth of mediatization that has an implication on society and culture. While Thompson links the question of mediatization to the growth of modernity, other scholars view the idea of mediatization to the expression of postmodern condition. Mediatization demands a new cultural order and consciousness. Baudrillard is one of the pioneers in propagating the idea of mediatization. In our everyday life, we are surrounded with signs and simulacra continuously circulated through media. These signs and images pose to be real at the cost of replacing physical and social realities. These images are so vivid with thick descriptions that sometimes we forget what is real and what is virtual. In Baudrillard's words, it is a distinction between real and hyperreal. As Baudrillard says, what is mediatized is not what comes off the daily press, out of the tube or on the radio. It is what is reinterpreted by the sign form, articulated into models and administered by the code. Although one can take Baudrillard's statement at a face value, however, one cannot deny the way media representations have a significant role in our society in formulating our perceptions and social constructions of everyday life. Mediatization attempts to blur the boundary of fact and fiction. As Brown puts it, such distinction collapses our understanding between nature and culture and global and local. Although such readings sound too grand, but at a deeper level, it looks too naive and simplistic. It imposes mediated reality over experienced reality. The aforementioned discussion highlighted various debates pertaining to mediatization, definitions, and types. But the question arises, how it affects community and society, how mediatization affects in individual interactions and within institutions. Certainly, there is a change in the mode of interaction due to media. This change may be visualized across space and time. Media provides simultaneity of interactions. That is, besides engaging with other activities, one can also interact with one's peers and other groups simultaneously. This helps in optimization of interactions possible. By simultaneity, we mean that along with conversation with someone through mobile phone, one can equally listen to radio music and open the television screen to see the latest news, and the mode of conversations also are informed accordingly to what you see, listen, and speak. Mediatization makes it possible for interactions over distance and to keep the interactions intact. This has become a normal practice in everyday life. Canadian sociologist Irving Goffman interestingly puts it by saying switching between stage and backstage. An earlier understanding of mediated interaction allowed us to transcend the territories for the process of interaction. Although it brings different physical locations and contexts to one single unit of interaction, however, it does not allow much to reconfigure the physical locations. For instance, conventional mass media such as television, telephone, and radio, although compress the idea of distance, but does not allow to leave the physical locations. Such communications may be a regulated one as the places of interactions are regulated. For instance, use of telephone in domestic space and the mode of conversations through telephone are regulated to a large extent by the family members are present. Similarly, watching television allows you to watch collectively, surrounded by television located in a central place in spite of differences of interest among the varying age groups. Although, in the recent times, in varying urban pockets, there are multiple television sets in the same household, so that it gives the viewers a choice and freedom to see what they want to see. But it does not necessarily allow them to move out of place, as it may be done through watching through mobile telephone or accessing internet in different locations. Today's youth spend considerable amount of time in mobile telephone, use it for various purposes. They are instant both in terms of response as well as information. The responses may take different turn, be it latest gossip, humor, rumor, scolding, seeing each other through video call and making gestures. These are possible because of the nature of technologies that allow us not only to delink from the place but also from the context. Extension of mediatization. Andreas Hepp, a professor of communication and media studies at the University of Bremen, tells that the lives of young people in Germany are becoming highly mediatized as their everyday life is interwoven with digital media. This digital media provide young people with great opportunities to connect with their wider communities. A few young people, who may be called as pluralists, are significantly involved in a variety of different communities beyond their own locale. Others live their lives as localists, oriented to communities in their nearly surroundings, or multi-localists, dedicated to different communities in more than one village, town or city, or centrists oriented to a particular religion, popular culture, practice or a youth scene around which a community has developed. Hence, the process of mediatization brings fluidity in the community. These orientations to communities, pluralists, localists, multi-localists or centrists, are explored through intensive use of digital media. Mostly, young people construct their own communities in everyday life by using digital media and well connected with these communities along a wide continuum of engagement. Only a few are pluralists, but most of them are localists who use digital media to hang out with their family members and friends, arrange local meetings, and even do activism. There are many such recent instances in India. One of them is Maratha Kranti, Mukh Morcha, MMKM. Maratha community in the state of Maharashtra led a movement specially by using social media a lot. The Maratha community can be interpreted as a mediatized community after this new movement. Like-minded spirits came together closely during the movement, and it could use digital media a lot. Mediatized community, sometimes mediatized community is as broad as a nation. In the everyday world, the nation is not only a media culture, but also a community. This media culture is formed by the social movements such as caste movements or environment movements, which is communitization of like-minded people. Media culture conceptualizes a community, or more accurately, the process of communitization. The process of communitization points individuals towards the sense of belonging that somebody feels to a certain community. There are a few recent examples in Indian context. Telangana, as an Indian state, is a product of such a sense of belongingness. This process of communitization is altered with the process of progressive mediatization of culture in the society. So, concepts of virtual communities and gaming communities are emerged. Virtual community. Mediatization of information, media and communication creates translocal connectivity, hence creates a community which is virtually connected. Indeed, increasing mediatization of communitization and translocal phenomenon due to globalization creates an imagined community in the virtual sphere. This imagined community relied on communicative figurations and communication networks, negating territorial references. An American writer and critic, Howard Rheingold, used the term virtual communities in 1993 in his book Virtual Community: Homesteading on the Electronic Frontier. Rheingold considered that communities based upon direct communication are facing decline, and loss of consciousness of things shared socially in common can be rescued by computer-mediated communication. He called it virtual communities, a new form of communitization in cyberspace. This process of communitization is based on issue-oriented consciousness of community and shared interest related to particular topic. However, Rheingold's emphasis on virtual over real communities is criticized. The communitization process of virtual communities through computer-mediated communication is extremely unbounded in regard to real people and places. Nancy Baim, an American academic, tells that the virtual communities cannot be described as a second reality, detached from everyday life. When change in the society and change in the media environment happens simultaneously, it is called meta process of change. This meta process of change is very much evident in the last 2 decades. Mediatization has entered a new stage due to recent wave of digitalization, which may be called deep mediatization. Formation of any community is related to technology, modernity, and technologically related media of communication. People's identities, their social relations, even in a small community, their construction of knowledge about the world is changing due to the dense network of mediated communication, that is, postal, telephone, mobile, internet, etc. Due to meta process of change, real or geographical communities are becoming fluid, and new communities such as gaming community, email community, etc. are emerging. Nowadays, commercialization in this capitalistic world is providing the stimulus to the mediatized communities. Hepp, Howard and Lundby cite that the emergence of mediatization as a concept is part of a paradigmatic shift within media and communication research. As mediatization is one of the recent concepts in media, communication and cultural studies, mediatized community, especially in India, needs further exploration. Hope that you enjoyed the lecture and it was informative. For more details, please read the e-text of this lecture carefully and attempt all the questions in the end. Thank you very much.